What's up, everybody? I'm Jeromy Leavelle with Remedy Claims Consulting and your commercial claims advocate coach. I've got Vince tied up in the closet, and so this is a commercial claims show takeover. Today, we're going to be learning about controlling the narrative during the claims process, and that lesson is coming to you in 3, 2, Controlling the narrative is a super important thing that we have to do. Number one, really the policy gives us the chance to do that. It's called the duties after a loss. And if we fulfill these duties after a loss to the point that the policy provides for us, then we will be controlling the narrative. If we actually do the things that we're supposed to do, controlling the narrative is a very easy thing. If you're a contractor and you don't really have the policy to go on, duties after the loss are pretty common across all boards. You know what I mean? Most policies have the same sort of things, whether it is, make sure that you mitigate from further damage, go ahead and begin to take inventory, all of those things that are in there, because essentially what the carrier is asking in those duties after the loss is, you tell us how much it's going to cost. You tell us how much it's going to cost. And that's a really powerful question for a homeowner. So it's really key that we make sure that we deliver this information in such a way that they understand it and B, will agree with it. And that's the hard thing to do.
Listen up, advocates. Whether you're a public adjuster, contractor, or an attorney, if you have a client that has suffered any kind of catastrophic loss, whether that be by fire or storm or just any catastrophic loss that requires your client to have to move out and incur ALE and loss of use coverage, you need to think about looking at Black Diamond Services. This is an incredible idea for a service that I think is extremely valuable and I've actually personally used for my clients myself. Basically what they do is they provide all of the necessary money that is needed to be done for the homeowner to go and move to another place, whether that be a hotel or another home or whatever it is. They basically bill through their insurance policy's loss of use coverage, and basically they provide financial assistance so that the insured never has to incur any out-of-pocket expenses. It's an amazing service. I love the people at Black Diamond Services, especially Millie Varela. If you just contact her and contact Black Diamond Services, I'm telling you, they're going to take care of your clients like you wouldn't believe. I personally have a client who suffered a fire damage and had to use their ALE coverage, and all we did was refer them to Black Diamond. Our clients did not have to come out of pocket a single penny. Black Diamond provided all of the financial money, and they provided the actual location for the homeowner to stay. Amazing service. Contact Black Diamond Services today so you could find out more information for yourself.
So one of the first things that we want to do when it comes to controlling the narrative is let's get the person's story. Let's have a conversation with them. Let's understand what is going on. And the real important thing to this is obvious. It's probably the real only eyewitness account or firsthand account of what happened. Tell me the series of events that led to this nightmare. Tell me the series of events that caused us to come to this situation where you now have an insurance claim and you have suffered a loss. This also gives you the opportunity to get them on your side. And the best way to get somebody on your side is say nothing and listen. Show a little bit of compassion. Let them feel like that they are being heard. Because most commonly, the reason people are upset is not because they're being treated unfairly, but because they feel like they're not being listened to. So this is a key point in any claims process, is make sure this insured, your client, your customer, is being heard. The other thing it does is it gets them on your side and it gets you on their side. And so now, instead of you going off and handling this claim on your own, which I realize you'll be the one with the expertise that's basically driving the bus here, but what it allows you to do is it allows you to with them on your side, now you're a team. Now you have this collective understanding. History of the house and the building history of what's going on may come into play. Oh, this was an addition that was added back in 1995, and this is what what happened here. And they can give you a ton of information, especially if we run into losses that have yet to be uncovered, that are ensuing losses that are due to the damage that we're dealing with at the front. So those are really important. Make sure you get that eyewitness account, get them on your side, and you get on their side. And that is the first step in getting the person's story. Next, once we've got that done, we've heard their story, we've commiserated with them, we've kumbaya'd, whatever it is that we have to do to understand their situation best. Now we move into what's called the documentation phase. This is actually something that they require in the duties after the loss. So what are we going to do? Obviously, we're going to want to go ahead and take pictures. We're going to take every kind of digital imaging that we have available to us and would be appropriate. Personally, I just use my cell phone and company cam, and I take those pictures, and I take breadcrumb pictures. So here's the idea. When I start taking pictures or adjusting a loss or looking at a loss from a documentation standpoint, I want to start at the origin of the loss, where most of the damage is prevalent, because it's at the origin where you'll see the biggest amount of damage. You want to start there and work outward as far as what you're dealing with. So we also, when we're taking these pictures, not just close-ups of damage, we want to have good, solid overviews of the room, all four corners, an understanding of where the furniture is arranged. If you're taking pictures of a roof, you want to understand what's facing the street, what's facing the side and left elevations, so that we have some situational awareness, whether it's from the direction of the storm, where the origin of loss occurred, those sorts of things we want to dial down and compact in so that it is a plausible, understandable story. And we can use all of this digital documentation that's out there. Again, photo, video, three-dimensional imaging, three-dimensional scanning. There's a couple of services out there, Matterport being the most prevalent and the most common end-to-end solution for such a thing. Again, you want to make sure you're taking overviews, and then you take breadcrumb photos that walks them in to the damage, that gives them a good idea of how this damage occurred. The next thing is that remember what your role is in the claim. So if you're a public adjuster, you're not a building expert. You're not a contracting expert. You're not being listened to as a contracting expert, even if you've done it for 30 years. Your role in this situation is to control the claim, not to control the project. So what we want to do is we want to get somebody else other than ourselves involved in telling us how this thing is going to be repaired and all of the different nuances that exist. So we need expert opinions. That's going to come in the way of what, if you've got a flooring expert, a cabinet expert, a roofing expert, having them and helping them put together the documentation and report for that area that they're working in only supports your claim further. Sometimes you may have to get more than one if you feel like all the information isn't covered, or you need to further support it to show that there is a collaboration or there is a consensus among methodology in how to repair something. So these expert opinions are really good. You're also going to want to gather any expert reports that may be necessary. So those expert reports can be something as simple as a weather report. Did it hail at this house on this day? Yes, it did. Third-party source material is great. You want to be able to go in. Google is awesome for these things. Get into the Google and find where there is documentation, not necessarily case law. We're not going to argue case law. What we're going to argue is that our methodology makes sense, and this is reasonable and customary. This is the reasonable, customary, most common form of how this certain problem would be approached. And in the middle of that, if you've had like some hazardous material loss, such as asbestos or mold or any avenue, you've got smoke, if you've got a fire, those sorts of things, you're going to want to get together your soot reports, your mold reports, your asbestos reports, and most importantly, your protocols. If you're hiring environmental hygienists and environmental specialists to come in, you want to make sure that they give you their protocol, whether it is hired by the carrier or whether it is hired by you. You want to make sure that you understand those protocols, because that is certainly going to affect the cost of the cost or the valuation of the loss at this point in time. So you want to gather all of those things together, make sure that they make sense in a narrative form, and you're explaining each one of these reports in your own narrative form. That's the next one in your documentation is you want to provide a good, solid written narrative. Good, solid written narratives are incredibly important. This is your chance, if you're a public adjuster, that you can cite policy. If you're a contractor, these are the places where you're going to want to insert code. You want to go ahead and defeat arguments such as that code is not enforced. You can defeat it in your narrative right then and there. I'm sorry, this code isn't enforced, but you can't guarantee that this code won't be enforced tomorrow. You can't guarantee that they're not going to come back and look at this code. So as a reputable contractor or as a reputable public adjuster, we advise that all building code, enforced or not, is going to be adhered to because it is quite simply the law. And so those are all really, really important. And once you have that gathered together, that is going to help you pilot the third step in controlling the narrative. And that is attaching a valuation to the loss. How much is it going to cost to fix it? And so during the first step, you're listening to the person's story. You should have been taking notes on how many coverages are going to be involved here. So you want to break those things out in your estimate. You want to make sure they make sense. We're going to do the dwelling. We're going to do other structures. And then we're going to do contents and then additional living expenses or pack outs or whatever the case may be as it pertains to your estimate. And let me be clear here. As you begin to put these things together, you're going to want to make sure that your photos are in the same order as your estimate, in the same order as your documentation, so that when they look at your thing, whether they look at it in columns or they look at it on pages, they can just see the same information being repeated in the same order with other sources telling them the same thing that you're telling them over the phone or in an email or whatever the case may be. This estimate is key. It is crucial. No, you do not have to know how to estimate to be a good public adjuster, but what you do need is people on your side making sure that you are relating the entire loss and the full value of what it's going to cost to fix or repair this loss, not so that it's functional, but so that it was like it was before the damage occurred. And so those are going to be very key, and you're going to submit all of this together, and they're going to look at it and look. There's no magic bullets here. I can't tell you that everything is going to work out and you show them this and they're going to magically pay your loss. I will tell you that if they're inclined to pay the loss, this does make it a whole lot easier for them. And the other thing is you can simply ask questions when they don't recognize your documentation. You can point to the certain thing that you sent them as can you please speak to this? It appears that this part of my report has gone unaddressed in your estimate or in your valuation. Can you please tell me why? And they're going to tell you whatever it is they're going to tell you. And then you're going to say, fine, if there's no argument for you, please send me a partial denial, letting them know in the policy why this is not going to be a part of the scope that you are going to be paying for. And that's another place where the homeowner is now on your side. They understand you have this rapport with them and all of this, and you put your heads together. And I am not going to say that's the end of negotiations by any stretch. Sometimes there's a lot of back and forth, but the most important thing when you're going back and forth with them is, my favorite word is prove it. Can you tell me that my methodology is wrong? Can you show me one shred of evidence? I don't care if it's on Google. I don't care if it's in some sort of guidelines. Please show me one shred of evidence of why you're not approving this line item, this overhead and profit, this dumpster, whatever it is. Why are you not approving this as I have written it? Because I don't have any interest. This is not my house. Yes, I am paid for what I do, but this is not my house. I have no interest in it as far as financial gain in any kind of way. What I'm here to do is make sure that everything is covered. Now, you may find that there will be additional supplements that may have to be provided. And all you do is go right back through the same exact steps. You get the story as to why this needs to be added to the claim. You go through the documentation. You write up the estimate or valuation of the supplement that you need to add because there's new discovery damages. You submit it to them. If they deny it, you ask them why. It is a reasonable question to ask them if they're denying something, to give you good, solid reason, because it is on them to refute what you're claiming, because you have done everything everything that the policy is asked you to do in order to prove this loss. And so do not give up with just a no. Make them give you a why, make them cite it in the policy, make them put it in writing. And that, guys, will help you control the narrative. So again, there's 4 steps. You want to get the person's story. You want to get the documentation, digital, expert opinion, expert reports, third-party source material. You want to write a good, solid estimate. If you're not an estimator, there's several sources. A good friend of the Commercial Claims Advocate Group is Mario Rios. He will get you pointed in a really good direction on getting estimates written for Xactimate. Otherwise, get some good, solid contractors on your side. They're going to tell you how to do it. And then finally, when they come back to you, if everything's not approved, ask for proof and get that reason why. And guys, this is how you control the narrative through every step of the claim. It is always good getting to hang out with you. Please put your comments down in the bottom. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.